up, Server Nation? My name is Michael Reid, the podcast server, and you are listening to Process Server Daily. On this podcast, we interview the top legal support professionals and get the tips, tools, and tactics that they use to get the job done and build a successful company. I'm a big fan of storytelling, and I'm excited about today's guest. Before we get started, let's give a big shout out to my new sponsor, Serve Manager. They have a special gift for all of my listeners at the end of today's episode. Okay, Server Nation, we are joined by the owner of On Time Process Services located in Klamath Falls, Oregon. He specializes in skip trace investigation and serving hard-to-find individuals. Gary Clayton, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you on. Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this industry.
So I started in 2014 as kind of just a side gig as I worked for Sears for approximately 10 years. I went through a divorce myself, and during the process of the divorce, I had to hire a process server to serve my ex-wife. It took him about 5 minutes, cost $125, and that was the moment that said I was in the wrong industry.
That's so funny because that's exactly how I got started. Except for he got paid. Actually, I'm the one who got served, and he told me he got paid $50. How funny! That's it's crazy. Some of the saddest moments in our lives end up giving us the greatest joys. So that's pretty cool. And so, how about now? You got a family?
Yeah. So I got 5 kids, wife, and being in this industry or being a business owner, sometimes it's got its ups and its downs, and I like the idea of being able to make my own schedule to be with the kids more, with the wife more.
Yeah, family's definitely most important, and that's one of the reasons I started my own business, because I didn't want someone to tell me that my life would be turned upside down, because I missed one day to go to my daughter's, dance recital or something like that. I didn't want anyone to have that kind of control over me, and so I'm with you there, brother. So, Gary, there's a reason why you're on the show. As I always say, everybody's got different things going on, but I've noticed you over the last few months doing a lot of really cool things, and so sometimes in the most tragic things come out the greatest triumphs. And so what is your worst experience working in the field?
So probably our worst experience was doing a serve for a divorce party, kind of what a majority of our serves are. And we were there was 2 of us servers out there, me and my colleague, and we had actually gotten held at gunpoint by 3 individuals, 2 males and a female, for about 2 hours before we had actually gotten rescued. That was probably our worst experience as far as serving goes. Wow.
So tell me more about that. So, and I don't want to take you back to, too much trauma, but take me back to the moment when did they just pull the gun out? You were at the door knocking on the door. How did it happen?
Yeah, so we walked up. We knew it was going to be a difficult serve, and we were warned that the defendant actually had firearms and was hostile. So we went in a team. We knocked on the door. As soon as we knocked on the door, the defendant opened the door and had a pistol in his hand, right at both me and my colleague. We proceeded just to back out of the situation, but as soon as we backed out, 2 individuals come from around the side of the house. Both of them had pistols as well. So we were kind of trapped. I was able to reach down and hit real quick on my phone for dispatch, and I threw the phone into the bed of my truck, and it took them a little while to get out there to us, but we were pretty well trapped. They had us go around to the back of the house, and we were stuck there.
Oh my gosh, what do you think they were going to do? What were they saying?
Well, there's so many things that go through your head at that time. We were both confident that we were going to get out safe. But when you're in the moment, 5 minutes turns into 5 hours in a couple of seconds. It's just crazy how fast it goes. When the sheriff's department pulled up there and finally got us out of that situation, it felt like a ton of bricks off of your shoulders.
Wow. So tell me about when the sheriff arrived. I mean, they had to have came out guns blazing, right? I mean, hey, put your guns down, this type of thing, or?
Well, actually, Essentially what happened was because they didn't have any communication back and forth through the phone, it was just an open line. They didn't really know what was going on. So they came in being cautious, but they didn't bring nearly enough manpower with them. And so it was one officer that came out, and once he kind of realized what was going on, he retreated back to his car, and then that's when they just started coming in from every angle. The defendant and his the two individuals that was with him, they came to their senses fairly quick, put their guns down, and surrendered.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's a pretty, man, that's an intense situation. I've actually never had something that intense. I got to tell you, being able to have in the pre-show, we had a little bit of a little conversation about, being connected to dispatch and stuff. You guys have that privilege, I guess you could call it, to be able to speak directly to dispatch, right?
Yeah. So we all have radios here. We had to go to a pretty extensive training class, each one of us, to be able to connect with dispatch. And when we're out in the areas where cell phones don't work, that's our only communication. And so dispatch is pretty good at making sure that we're checking in with them and they're checking in with us. And if we need backup, depending on what it is, they'll send a sheriff out. We had the incident last week that you had seen online about me following an individual down into California. We had actually radioed to dispatch to see if they would assist us in stopping the vehicle, and they were like, nope, it's civil. Follow him until he stops or you run out of gas.
Wow, that's crazy. And then in that story, you followed him down there, and then the CHP or the state police?
Yeah, we were waiting at the defendant's house. And as soon as we seen him pull in, we pulled in behind him, and he was able to wedge himself around my car. And so I pulled out, followed him through town. He jumped on Highway 97, which is the highway here, and started heading towards south. A lot of the individuals here in Klamath, since we're so close to California, they think that if they go into California, they can't be served. So as soon as they get on 97 south, we automatically know that they're heading into California. So we contact the Department of Agriculture down there, because they have the transfer station and bug station, we call them. And they'll typically assist us in stopping them. However, this day, there was a CHP officer that was actually passing through about 10 minutes before we were coming through, and the transfer station supervisor actually stopped CHP and asked him if he would hang out to assist with that. And they did. They were really good at helping us with it. However, it ended up being a pretty scary situation. They did step in and help us.
So a couple of things I want to say about your worst experience. First of all, do everything you can to be prepared, because when you think, it's probably just one guy and we got this handled, I got my gun. If he has a gun, then we'll handle it, right? I know that's a very simplified version, but, in this case, there were multiple people. And then if you did have a gun, now you're having a shootout with three guys. It's insane what can happen if you're trigger happy. That's one thing.
Yeah.
It's insane. It ended up, did anyone end up getting shot that day?
No, there was no gunfire, and actually, we don't carry here. I have each one of my process servers, I allow them to make the decision. However, I strongly discourage my individuals or my process servers from carrying, maybe keeping it in a vehicle or something like that. We've seen in the past with open carry or concealed carry, if the defendant or the individual we're serving sees it, it brings a higher threat. And so we were seeing a lot of pushback from it. So without having a firearm, and yeah, it's a dangerous industry, but we were able to eliminate a lot of problems just by taking the firearms out of the equation.
Yeah, that's, each business has to make the decision based on their area, based on their ability to handle different situations. And I think that's, it's commendable that you made that decision. I think maybe another way could be to have a concealed weapons permit, so that I'm not familiar with Oregon's laws on that. Are you able to? Is it a law where you can conceal carry?
Yeah, you can conceal carry. And my process servers, they do conceal carry. we just try to keep the intensity between a firearm and open carry at a bay.
Well, what I get from your story most is be prepared and be cool and calm and collected. And then, to be able to get your phone like that and to hit it and throw it in the back of the truck the way that you did, I don't know that I could have or would have thought to do something like that. Because had you not done that, you'd have been at their mercy for who knows how long.
Right. Yeah. And so the idea is that when we went into this, we were prepared because we had gotten word beforehand that the individual may act like this. So before we had even gotten to the house, we had already had 911 dialed into our phones because we didn't know what we were walking into, and you never know what you're walking into. You can walk in and they can have a conversation with you for 20 minutes about their day, or you can walk into guns.
And sometimes you walk into have a 5-minute conversation, and then they find out you're there to serve them, and then they're pulling out guns.
Yep. Yeah.
That can happen too. And so that's great. So Gary, what do you want Server Nation to get from your story, your worst experience?
Well, just to be safe and always be prepared. And the idea is to go home, if you have a family, to go home to your family every day, or if you don't have a family, to go home alive every day. Stay safe and always be prepared for the worst.
So Gary, that's awesome. Tell me your greatest experience working in the field.
So this actually just happened not too long ago. We had a storm locate. It was kind of like a will where an individual here in Klamath County was getting an inheritance from relative out of Texas, and we were hired to do a locate and then to do the serve. When we did the locate and found that this individual who was inheriting a large amount of money had to be notified of it, we were kind of intrigued that most of the time we're bringing bad news to people. In this instance, it wasn't bad news. It was kind of a cool story where this guy has been living a mediocre life, working 9 to 5, and now he no longer has to. So it was kind of a cool experience to have.
That's a really cool experience. And how much money was it?
I don't remember right offhand, but I think it was a little over $2 million.
Oh man, how much did you make on that one?
Well, first we quoted it at $65 for the serve, and then it's $65 an hour to do the locator, $125, which one we went to. Afterwards, we were like, wow, we don't think we charged enough for this one.
Exactly. You were more like private security for that for that delivery.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the individual, when we were going to serve him, he avoided us. For several weeks, he avoided us. We had a location for him. We tried to explain to him what it was, and he didn't believe it. He kind of blew us off, and then finally when we got him pinned down to actually get him served with the notice of what he needed to do next, he still didn't believe it. It took him several minutes to actually comprehend what was going on. Wow.
And so you just never know. That's one of the other cool things that I love about this industry is you never know what you're going to get. One day, I don't know, you get some of the same things over and over, and I look at it like those keep the lights on. And then other days you get things you're like, yeah, this is cool. I get to serve a pro NBA player, or Fergie, or you go serve some celebrity. That's always fun,
and challenging.
Yeah, and challenging. We're up here in the sticks. You're further up in the sticks, but I'm up in Chico, and it's still pretty far up here. So the best we get is, I guess, Tom Hanks. He lives in Redding.
That's always fun.
Yeah, good deal. So that's great. That's what I get from your story. What do you want Server Nation to get from your greatest experience?
Take everything positive. And enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing in a career, then you always should change things up. So even though we're typically, as I call, doing the devil's work, or bearing bad news for people, you're just a messenger. It is all we are. If we're messengers, we're just out here to do our job. And be positive with it. Most of the time, if you go out and you're negative when you're going out to do these serves, you're going to get a negative reaction. You go out and you be positive with these individuals or these defendants. They're only defendants to somebody else. They're not a defendant to you.
That's right.
So being positive can take you a long way.
That's great. Gary, what are you working on right now that has you most excited?
So we're actually expanding. Our biggest thing right now is that we want to move from just Klamath County or Oregon. We serve all of Oregon, but we want to take this nationwide with the approach that what On-Time Process Service has been doing for multiple years. You can go to our Facebook page or our Google page, and you can see our reviews that we've even had positive reviews from individuals that we've served. And we want to be able to take that across the nation and open it up across the nation. And we're doing our due diligence to make everything work right.
What I take from what you're most excited about, you say you're growing nationwide. How does somebody even fathom that when they're just starting out? Like, how do they go from just starting out to where you're at, where you're like, okay, we're getting ready to set off on a nationwide jaunt?
So I would say starting out, definitely get used to your area, the law, the restrictions, and the way service is done before you even approach going nationwide. If you can't make your local customers happy, the chances of you going nationwide and making customers all across the country happy is probably going to be slim. Know your area, know what you're doing, read, do a lot of research, reach out to mentors. NAPS is a very good platform for new process servers to reach out to and get the education that they need.
That's great.
Your local associations is also huge, reaching out to your local associations.
Now, Gary, does Oregon have an association?
Yeah, Oregon has the Oregon Association of Process Servers. I think the people that's been sitting on the board has been doing it for quite a long time, and we're not too involved with the association. We're members of the association, but we're working on our business. Our next would be our PR to work with that to start moving that in the direction we want it to.
That's great. So if you're an Oregon process server, definitely go and check out the Oregon Association, the National Association of Process Servers. Server Nation, Gary has been dropping some major value bombs on us today, but prepare yourself because we're headed into the rapid fire round right after a word from our sponsors. Server Nation, imagine what you could do with another 25 minutes per job. This is how much time process servers who use Serve Manager are saving. At just 100 jobs per month, that's over 40 hours that can be spent growing your business or doing more important things like spending time with your family. From job creation to affidavit generation, Serve Manager is full-featured and hands down the most intuitive process serving software on the market. I use it for my business. I think you should use it too. In my firm, it's important for me to be able to automate the systems that get things done. Serve Manager has done just that with their API integration, where you can set up literally any app that integrates with Zapier will integrate with Serve Manager. I love it. I've set my whole firm up. Go to processserverdaily.com/Serve Manager to get your free trial. If you like it after the 14-day free trial, they've offered to give you another 60 days for free as a thank you for being a Process Server Daily listener. That's processserverdaily.com/Serve Manager. Okay, welcome back to the show. Gary, are you ready for the rapid fire round?
Absolutely.
Awesome. What is your favorite skip trace tactic?
I would definitely say that we use court records a lot. Most of the defendants that we're trying to locate, at one point in time or another, they've either had a traffic violation or some type of a civil case, and you can pull a lot of information just from your local court record. I know Oregon is huge. We're set up with Taylor Hosting, which we get to pull all the records for that. And then of course we run plates. DMV is really good here. We can run plates. We can run names and first and last name with a possible date of birth, and they give us a lot of information from that as well too.
Yeah, California's got it pretty locked up unless you have I think there's maybe 500 certificates or something like that. It's very difficult to get that kind of information here. That's pretty cool that Oregon does that. Are you able to just search it right on the database, or do you have to call them? Or
yeah, so we have there's multiple different platforms. So you can for DMV we can call in. So if we're in the field and we have an individual who we believe is there. We have a car in the driveway. We'll run the plate right there, and if it comes back to that individual, we'll go up and confront them with that. We can call in, we can fax it in, or we have online. They'll have online access come 2020. They're going to go online for DMV. Court documents we can call or we can access it online for court documents.
Wow, that's really cool. So you're the first person who's come on the show and mentioned the court documents. So I want to dig it a little deep. I know this is a rapid fire round, but I want people to learn from it as well. So when it comes to a court document, you get Michael Reid. How do you use the court documents? You search my name via the court record?
Yeah, so we can pull up records with just a name, first and last name, and then we can kind of plug and play to see where it's at. It's not just putting in somebody's name and then you get just that individual, because there's a lot of Gary Claytons and there's a lot of Michaels out there. You have to pinpoint, if we have a small claims document we're serving, we can see that they have the small claim, so we can link it to that individual, and then we go back, and we had a hard to find individual, the credit union that we were looking for. They were trying to find this individual for almost a year, and then they contacted us. We put him into the court records, and come to find out he had a restraining order put on him a couple weeks ago. And so we were able to link the address to where he was served by the sheriff's department to link right back to him. So it was a very good tactic to be able to use that, and the credit union didn't have that information.
What is your favorite skip tracing tool?
Favorite tool, I like Delft Point, I think it is, or IDI. I like both of those programs. I really use I try to go for what is inexpensive first. There's actually a program out there called spyfly.com, and it's very inexpensive, and it gives you pretty good record information. Sometimes you have to look through and go through different things, but Spyfly was our number one platform that we used for a long time.
What is your favorite tool for defense?
So favorite tool for defense is one, our dispatch. Being able to reach out to dispatch, that's huge for defense for us. I don't carry a firearm, but I do carry a baton or asp. I carry a bear mace just in case, and also my flashlight. I have a high-powered flashlight, and if I'm surfing at night, ain't nobody going to see me once that goes into their eyes.
Is it like a spotlight?
It's not really a spotlight. It's Bushnell. It's just a high-powered, high-lumens flashlight.
What book would you recommend?
The Naps book. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, that's a good one. It's actually kind of shocking that those books are huge, and they ship them out to all the members. What is the greatest advice you have ever received?
So the greatest advice I have ever received, I have a mentor that's been in the industry for about 35 years that retired out, and I ended up purchasing his business from him just to basically let him out and take over his contracts that he had. And he said, always be pleasant. Always be pleasant to the person you're serving. Don't ever come at them with judgment. If you're judging the individual, it's not your place to judge. Whatever they're going through is their own deal. It's not your deal, so don't ever judge them.
Yeah, Gary, that's perfect. Being able to go out and to be able to handle yourself well around people and not judging them. Okay, that's great advice. Gary, what parting piece of advice do you have for the struggling server out there where his business is circling the drain? What advice do you have for that server?
Always pay, if you're outsourcing serves, always pay your outsourced companies in advance or fairly quickly. Customer service is huge. If you're making your customers or your clients happy, they're going to come back and use you every time. We're fairly expensive for our area, roughly $35 more than any other server in our area. But we have a majority of the business just because they can track our information online. We send them regularly updates, and they know that they can call and get one of us on the phone at any time of the day. I'm not saying answer your phone at 10 o'clock at night, but customer service is huge, and it's key for this industry.
So, Gary, what I take most from what you just said is that, because you said to pay your servers on time and to pay them ahead of time. Many times, if you deal with these big process serving companies, many times that's how a lot of servers get started, right? They contact all these companies all over the country and say, hey, I can do serves. But even though they're doing serves so inexpensive, they end up still being owed, $5,000, $7,000, some outrageous amount by this huge company that should be able to pay them on time.
Yeah, definitely. I have a philosophy about the big companies out there. It's different for different areas. My area is small. We don't have a lot of people, a lot of process servers to choose from here. But if you're in a secluded area where you don't have a lot of competition, if you are not using those big companies, then that serve still got to be done. And if they can't get that big company to do that serve, who are they going to call? They're going to call you, and you're going to get that business, and you're not going to be paying the middle person. I started out doing serves for ABC and a lot of other Provets and other big companies, and then I slowly kind of backed out because I was paying them for what I was going to do anyways.
Hey, brother, one man's failure is another man's success. You got to capitalize on that stuff. So that's good, Gary. I really feel like Server Nation has gained a lot from this interview. Gary, what is the best way that we can connect with you, and then we can say goodbye?
So you can go to www.ontimeproserve.com or 541-810-3411. Look up process servers for Oregon. We come up typically number one. Or if you want to get directly to me, call our office in Klamath Falls, 541-810-2172. I'd be more than happy to, if anybody's out there that's wanting to get into process serving or has questions about it, give me a call. I'll sit down. I'm all about working for yourself and mentoring with the information that I have.
Gary, I want to personally thank you for being on the show today. I've been impressed with your story, and I'm excited to share it with the world.
Thank you, Michael, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure.
Until next time, Server Nation, you've been served up some awesomeness by On Time Gary and Mighty Mike, the podcast server.
Don't forget to get your free 14-day free trial of Server Manager, and if you like it, you get another 60 days for free, Server Nation. Even if you love your current software, you should at least check it out. ProcessServerDaily.com/Serve Manager.